shocking courtroom twist. Portia confesses to shooting Drew in stunning act of sacrifice for Curtis. In a stunning courtroom reversal that has left poor Charles reeling, the trial of Curtis Ashford took an unexpected and dramatic turn when his wife, Portia Robinson, made a shocking confession that nobody saw coming. Just as the evidence against Curtis appeared overwhelming, Portia broke down on the witness stand and revealed a devastating secret. She claimed to be the one who shot Drew Kane Quartermain, not her husband. Curtis arrested, the beginning of a nightmare. Curtis Ashford never expected to find himself behind bars. The accomplished businessman and devoted family man was arrested following the investigation into the shooting of Congressman Drew Kane Quartermain. As the evidence mounted and the prosecution built their case, Curtis's world began to crumble. Police found compelling details linking him to the crime, and what had been whispers in Port Charles quickly became official charges. With the trial date set, Curtis's legal team scrambled to mount a defense, but the situation looked increasingly dire. The arrest sent shockwaves through Curtis's family. His wife Portia struggled to keep their lives together while supporting their unborn baby and dealing with the mounting stress of her husband's legal troubles. The emotional toll was visible on everyone close to Curtis. Friends, family members, and colleagues all questioned how this could be happening to someone they knew and respected. The trial begins. A house of cards collapses as Curtis sat in the defendant's chair, watching the prosecution present witness after witness. The weight of the situation pressed down on him. The courtroom was packed with journalists, curiosity seekers, and those invested in the outcome of this high-profile case. Every piece of evidence seemed to strengthen the prosecution's narrative. Every testimony appeared to tighten the noose around Curtis. But Curtis wasn't alone in his suffering. Portia watched from the gallery, her guilt gnawing at her conscience with each passing moment. She had been keeping a devastating secret, something about the baby, something about the circumstances of that terrible night when Drew was shot. The guilt of her deception was eating her alive. A mother's guilt surfaces, Portia's breaking point. The real shock came when Portia, unable to bear it any longer, requested to take the stand. Her lawyer was bewildered. Her family was confused. But Portia had made a decision, a choice born from desperation, guilt, and a desperate need to protect her husband. As she was sworn in, tears were already streaming down her face. The courtroom fell silent, sensing that something momentous was about to occur. The judge leaned forward, puzzled by her unexpected testimony. "Your Honor," Portia began, her voice trembling, "I need to tell the truth. I can't let Curtis go to prison for something he didn't do. I was the one who shot Drew Kane." The courtroom erupted in chaos. Gasps echoed through the gallery. News cameras flashed outside the courthouse. The dramatic confession blindsided everyone: the judge, the prosecutor, Curtis's defense team, and most importantly, Curtis himself. When questioned about her motive, Portia explained her guilt. She had been harboring a secret about her pregnancy, something that had weighed heavily on her conscience. She confessed that she had lied to Curtis about the baby, and the shame and remorse had become unbearable. When the shooting occurred, she made a calculated decision to let Curtis take the fall rather than confess herself, believing she could protect her child and their family. But as the trial progressed and she watched her innocent husband face prison time, her conscience could no longer remain silent. Portia's arrest and Curtis's unexpected release. Immediately following her confession, Portia Robinson was arrested on the spot. The judge had no choice but to order her into custody pending new charges. As officers led her away from the witness stand, she exchanged a meaningful look with Curtis, a glance laden with apology, resignation, and a desperate hope that her sacrifice might mean something. Curtis, meanwhile, was released from custody. The reversal was surreal. The man who moments earlier seemed destined for conviction and imprisonment walked out of the courthouse a free man, but not a victorious one. The emotional toll of his wife's confession, her arrest, and the revelation of her deception had left him shaken and confused. "I don't understand," Curtis said to his attorney as they left the courthouse. She confessed to protect me, but now she's the one facing prison time. What was she thinking? The mystery remains. Only Drew knows. What Curtis, the judge, and the entire Port Charles legal system didn't realize was that Portia's confession, while shocking and noble in its intent to protect her husband, may not have been the complete truth. In fact, sources close to the situation reveal that only one person knows who really pulled the trigger, that night Drew Kane Quartermain himself. Drew has remained suspiciously quiet about the shooter's identity, choosing not to publicly identify his attacker despite having direct knowledge of who shot him. This calculated silence has created a powder keg of questions. Did Drew have a reason to let the wrong person take the fall? Is he protecting someone? Does he have leverage over Portia's confession? Or is he simply trying to control the narrative in Port Charles's murky underworld of blackmail and secrets? The congressman's refusal to definitively identify his shooter has created a legal quagmire. Portia's confession stands as official testimony, yet Drew's knowledge could unravel everything. His silence is perhaps more powerful than any statement he could make. It gives him leverage, control, and the ability to manipulate the outcome of this tragic situation. The aftermath: a family torn apart. In the days following the courtroom confession and arrests, Port Charles found itself gripped by the fallout. Portia, now facing serious criminal charges, sat in a holding cell contemplating the consequences of her choice. Her unborn baby's future hung in the balance. Her marriage to Curtis, once seemingly solid, now faced unprecedented strain. Curtis struggled with the knowledge that his wife had lied to him, confessed to a crime she may or may not have committed, and sacrificed her freedom in a desperate attempt to save his. The questions were endless. What other secrets was she hiding? What else didn't he know about the woman he married? And most troublingly, what would happen to their child? Friends and family members of both Curtis and Portia found themselves torn between loyalty and confusion. Some supported Portia's sacrifice, viewing her as a martyr who gave up everything for love. Others questioned her sanity, wondering how confessing to a crime she might not have committed served anyone's interests in the long run. Port Charles waits for answers. As Port Charles settles into the uncertainty following these shocking events, one truth remains: the legal system, the families involved, and everyone watching this drama unfold are left grasping for real answers. Portia sits in custody. Curtis walks free but tormented. And Drew Kane remains the keeper of a secret that could change everything. The question now becomes, will Drew eventually reveal the truth about who actually shot him? Will Portia's confession hold up in court, or will new evidence emerge? And most importantly, can Curtis and Portia's marriage survive the deception, sacrifice, and criminal charges that now threaten to destroy them both? Next, we will learn about the chilling revelation that could destroy Laura Spencer's life forever. The nightmare that began on Route 23 continues to haunt Port Charles's beloved mayor, and the terrifying truth about who was watching that fateful night is finally coming to light. Laura can't stop the replay in her mind. Every single night, the same horrific scene unfolds behind her closed eyelids like a horror film stuck on repeat. The moment she lifted that trunk lid and saw Dalton's lifeless body sprawled inside, twisted at angles that bodies simply shouldn't bend, his vacant eyes staring up at nothing, the cold dome light casting shadows across his pale, motionless face, the way his limbs looked wrong, positioned in that unnatural way that screams death to anyone unfortunate enough to witness it. She remembers how her breath caught in her throat, how her hands went numb, how reality seemed to tilt sideways for those endless seconds before Sonny pulled her back from the edge. Sonny had reacted with the kind of lightning-fast precision that comes from decades of handling crisis situations. He yanked Laura away from the trunk, slammed it shut with decisive force, and immediately shifted into damage control mode. While Laura stood there frozen, unable to process the nightmare unfolding before her, Sonny was already 3 steps ahead, calculating, planning, doing what needed to be done. Because Laura couldn't even breathe properly, let alone formulate a coherent thought about what to do next. Her world had shattered in that single moment of discovery. Now Jack Sidwell holds the weapon that could obliterate everything Laura has built. A photograph. Not just any photograph, but one that captures Laura and Sonny in that precise moment of horror. Both of them leaning over Dalton's corpse, their faces frozen in expressions of shock and guilt. The composition is flawless. The angle is absolutely perfect. The lighting captures every damning detail. This isn't some blurry, accidental snapshot taken by someone who happened to be in the right place at the right time. This is calculated, professional, deliberate. When you examine that photograph closely, really study every detail, the technical precision becomes impossible to ignore. The shot wasn't captured from ground level by someone crouching in the bushes or hiding behind a tree. The elevation is wrong for that. The steadiness is too perfect. There's no camera shake, no motion blur, no signs of a handheld device operated by nervous, trembling hands. The framing is centered with mathematical precision, as if someone knew exactly where to position the camera before the scene even unfolded. Every element in the composition serves a purpose. Sidwell's explanation about using a telephoto lens sounds almost laughable when you understand the logistics involved. He wants Laura and Sonny to believe that some photographer was lurking in the wilderness along Route 23, camera ready, just waiting for Port Charles's mayor to stumble upon a dead body at that exact location. The probability of that scenario is astronomically low. Sidwell doesn't operate on luck and coincidence. He operates on careful planning, meticulous preparation, and outcomes that can be predicted and controlled. He doesn't gamble on random chance. He stacks the deck before the game even begins. The most logical explanation points to modern surveillance technology. A drone, not the large, noisy consumer models that announce their presence from a quarter-mile away, but something smaller, more sophisticated, nearly silent in operation. The kind of equipment that military contractors and high-level security firms use for covert operations. These devices can be programmed with specific flight paths, equipped with stabilized cameras that produce cinema-quality footage, and operated remotely from considerable distances. Pascal, Sidwell's right-hand operative, certainly possesses the technical expertise to deploy such equipment. The tire failure wasn't random mechanical bad luck. Someone, likely Pascal himself, placed a screw in Laura's tire with surgical precision. Not a large, obvious puncture that would cause immediate deflation, but a slow leak designed to gradually reduce tire pressure until Laura had no choice but to pull over. The location wasn't arbitrary either. Route 23 at that specific point was chosen deliberately, mapped out in advance, studied for optimal surveillance positioning. When Laura's car rolled to a stop, the drone didn't need to scramble into position. It was already there, hovering silently overhead, camera pointed downward, ready to document everything. The photograph itself contains a crucial tell that most people would miss. The edges have been cropped. The frame has been deliberately tightened, reduced from its original dimensions. If Sidwell cropped the image, he removed information. That means there's more. The full frame likely includes details he doesn't want Laura and Sonny to see yet. Perhaps the wider shot reveals the car before it stopped, providing context that would expose the setup. Perhaps there's audio accompanying the footage, capturing every word spoken at the scene. Perhaps another person appears in the periphery, someone whose presence would complicate Sidwell's narrative. Sidwell is a master of selective disclosure. He shows people exactly enough to apply pressure, to create fear, to establish control. But he always holds something back, some additional piece of leverage for when the first round of pressure isn't sufficient. This photograph represents only the opening move in his game. The full recording, complete with metadata, timestamps, and unedited footage, is almost certainly stored somewhere secure, waiting for the moment when Sidwell needs to escalate. Then there's Nathan West's appearance at the scene, a detail that becomes more suspicious the more you examine it. Nathan arrived right then, at that specific moment, at that particular stretch of isolated road. His demeanor was calm, almost unnaturally so. He didn't react with the shock or confusion you'd expect from someone stumbling upon a mayor standing beside her car with a known mobster in the middle of nowhere. He didn't seem rattled by the tension crackling in the air. Near the trunk, where Dalton's body lay hidden just feet away, Nathan showed no signs of suspicion or concern. He simply asked about a spare tire as if this were any routine roadside assistance scenario. The timing strains credibility. Either Nathan West has the most impeccable coincidental timing in Port Charles history, or his appearance was coordinated. Sidwell doesn't necessarily need Nathan to be corrupt or actively involved in the conspiracy. He only needs Nathan to appear at precisely the right moment to disrupt Laura's composure, to add another layer of pressure to make her feel even more exposed and vulnerable. A cop showing up right after you've discovered a body in your trunk would rattle anyone, guilty or innocent. But the photograph itself suggests something even more complex and potentially dangerous. The angle, the detachment, the purely observational quality of the shot. It doesn't feel like surveillance conducted by someone with a personal stake in the outcome. There's a clinical quality to the footage, a sense of documentation rather than manipulation. This opens a disturbing possibility that Laura and Sonny haven't even considered yet. What if there was a second observer that night? Someone else watching the same scene unfold, recording from a different position, for completely different reasons? Intelligence agencies, federal law enforcement, organized crime rivals, corporate espionage operatives, any number of entities might have interest in monitoring Sonny Corinthus's movements. Laura's presence would simply be collateral documentation. This second observer wouldn't be aligned with Sidwell's blackmail operation. They wouldn't be trying to pressure Laura or extract favors from Port Charles's mayor. They would simply be tracking movements, gathering intelligence, building files for future reference. If this theory holds, Sidwell may not have exclusive access to the footage. The same scene might exist on multiple hard drives in multiple locations, held by parties with different agendas and different timelines for deployment. Laura's nightmare on Route 23 could resurface again months or years from now, weaponized by someone she hasn't even identified as a threat yet. The implications are staggering. What Sidwell showed Laura and Sonny in that initial confrontation was almost certainly the minimum viable product. The smallest, safest slice of his full collection. The real archive. The unedited footage showing the full sequence of events. The technical logs revealing exact timestamps and GPS coordinates. Possibly even audio recordings capturing every conversation remains hidden in Sidwell's possession. He's holding those materials in reserve for the next phase of pressure, for when Laura and Sonny inevitably resist his demands or attempt to maneuver against him. But here's what Sidwell may not fully appreciate. Laura Spencer has survived decades of crises in Port Charles. She's faced down mob bosses, international criminals, and threats to her family that would break most people. Sonny Corinthos has built an empire on anticipating threats and neutralizing them before they fully materialize. Together, they represent a formidable team with resources, connections, and determination that Sidwell might be underestimating. They know he has more footage. They know he'll try to use it when the time is right. And they're preparing their countermoves right now, gathering their own intelligence, building their own leverage, preparing for the war that's coming. The real question isn't whether Sidwell will make his next move. It's whether Laura and Sonny will be ready when he does. Next, we will learn about the issue that has been dominating fan conversations across social media platforms and online forums. The recent brief appearance of Esmond General Hospital has sent shockwaves through the dedicated fanbase, igniting a wildfire of speculation and passionate demands for both her and Spencer to make a triumphant return to the drama-filled streets of Port Charles. For longtime viewers of the beloved soap opera, the excitement surrounding Esm's fleeting cameo cannot be understated. Even though her screen time was limited, it was enough to remind fans of the complex, layered character she had become during her time on the show. The mere glimpse of her familiar face has sparked countless theories, discussion threads, and heartfelt pleas for the writers to bring back not just Esm, but also her former love interest Spencer Casadini. The chemistry between these two characters, whether as enemies or potential lovers, created some of the most memorable moments in recent General Hospital history. Seasoned soap opera enthusiasts understand a fundamental truth that has held firm for decades across all daytime dramas. In Port Charles, death is rarely permanent, and absence is merely temporary. This unwritten rule of the soap opera universe becomes even more applicable when bodies are never recovered, leaving the door wide open for dramatic returns that can shake up storylines for months or even years to come. The case of Esme Prince and Spencer Casadini fits this pattern perfectly, making their potential comeback not just possible, but practically inevitable in the eyes of devoted fans who have seen similar resurrections countless times before. The tragic circumstances surrounding their disappearance remain fresh in viewers' minds. Spencer and his beloved Trina Robinson were finally living out their fairy tale romance, having made the bold decision to relocate to the City of Light together. Paris represented a fresh start for the young couple, a chance to leave behind the darkness and chaos that had plagued their relationship in Port Charles. Their luxury yacht journey was supposed to be the beginning of their happily ever after, a romantic adventure that would cement their bond before starting their new European life together. However, the vengeful and unstable Esme Prince had other plans for the couple. In a moment that shocked viewers and left them gasping at their television screens, Esme managed to infiltrate their private yacht, carrying with her a deadly drug intended for Trina. The confrontation that followed was intense and heart-stopping, as Esme's jealousy and desperation reached a terrifying climax. When she attempted to inject Trina with the lethal substance, Spencer's protective instincts kicked in immediately. Without hesitation, he dove to intercept the syringe, putting himself directly in harm's way to save the woman he loved. The struggle that ensued on the deck of that yacht became the stuff of General Hospital legend, as Spencer fought to protect Trina and wrestled the deadly drug away from Esme's grasp. The boat rocked violently beneath them. In the chaos and confusion, both Spencer and Esme lost their footing and tumbled over the railing, plunging into the dark, churning waters below. Trina's screams echoed across the waves as she watched helplessly, unable to save either of them as they disappeared beneath the surface. Despite extensive search and rescue operations that lasted for days, neither body was ever recovered from the Mediterranean Sea, leaving their fates shrouded in mystery and uncertainty. This lack of recovered bodies has become the cornerstone of fan theories and hope for their return. In the world of soap operas, missing bodies equal limitless possibilities. The actress who portrays Esme, Avery Christenpole, has herself fueled speculation by expressing her belief that her character could very well still be alive and thriving somewhere in the world. In a recent interview that sent fans into a frenzy, Pole playfully suggested various scenarios for where Esme might have ended up after her dramatic ocean plunge. Her imaginative suggestions ranged from the plausible to the deliberately absurd, showcasing both her sense of humor and her understanding of soap opera storytelling conventions. She mused that perhaps Esme stuck around France after washing ashore, adapting to a new life in a charming coastal village where no one knows her dark past. Or, in a more adventurous twist, she joked that Esme could be traversing the Sahara Desert in Morocco, perhaps having completely reinvented herself while riding camels across the golden sand dunes. These whimsical scenarios, while delivered with tongue firmly in cheek, actually align perfectly with the kind of unexpected plot twists that General Hospital has delivered throughout its long history. Another popular theory among fans draws inspiration from the classic 1980 film The Blue Lagoon. In this romantic scenario, both Spencer and Esme could have washed up together on a remote, uninhabited island somewhere in the Mediterranean. Forced to work together for survival, they might have put aside their antagonistic history and discovered common ground. Living off the land, fishing for sustenance, building shelter from palm fronds and driftwood, they could have formed an unexpected bond. In this extended isolation, stripped of the social pressures and family conflicts that define their Port Charles existence, they might have fallen genuinely in love. Some fans have even speculated that they could have started a family together, with Esme giving birth to Spencer's child on this tropical paradise, creating an entirely new dynamic that would explode upon their return to civilization. The prospect of Spencer's return to Port Charles, however, comes with significant complications regarding casting. Nicholas Alexander Chavez, the talented young actor who brought Spencer to life and created such powerful chemistry with his co-stars, has successfully moved on to other exciting projects in his burgeoning career. His post-General Hospital work has garnered critical acclaim and opened new doors in the entertainment industry, making a return to the daily grind of soap opera production increasingly unlikely. Industry insiders and fans alike recognize that if Spencer does make a comeback to Port Charles, it will almost certainly require recasting the role with a new actor who can capture the essence of the character while bringing his own interpretation to the beloved Casa Dinier. The potential return raises enormous questions about the current romantic landscape in Port Charles. Trina Robinson spent months drowning in grief after losing Spencer, her true love and soulmate. The pain of his loss transformed her, aging her emotionally and forcing her to confront the harsh reality that life continues even after devastating tragedy. Eventually, after a long and difficult healing process, Trina cautiously opened her heart again and entered into a new relationship with Kai Taylor, a kind and patient man who helped her rediscover joy and hope. While Trina and Kai's relationship appears stable and comfortable on the surface, fan reception has been decidedly lukewarm. Many viewers see their pairing as pleasant, but lacking the passionate intensity and electric chemistry that define Sprina. The nickname Sprina, given to Spencer and Trina by their devoted shippers, represented one of the show's most epic modern romances. Their love story overcame family feuds, class differences, schemes, betrayals, and ultimately tragedy. In comparison, Trina and Kai's relationship feels safe and predictable to many fans, lacking the dangerous edge and soul-deep connection that made Sprina appointment television. If Spencer were to suddenly reappear in Port Charles, alive and well after all this time, the emotional fallout would be catastrophic and compelling. Trina would be faced with an impossible choice between her first love, the man she believed dead and mourned deeply, and her current partner, who helped her rebuild her shattered life. The love triangle potential is undeniable, and based on fan sentiment expressed across social media platforms, message boards, and fan conventions, Kai would likely find himself as the unfortunate third wheel. Most devoted viewers would welcome Spencer back with open arms and root for a Sprina reunion, potentially at Kai's expense. However, the Desert Island theory presents an intriguing alternative that could completely upend these expectations. If Spencer and Esme did indeed survive together and spent extended time isolated from the rest of the world, forced to rely on each other for survival and companionship, an entirely different dynamic could have developed between them. Stripped of their Port Charles identities, prejudices, and the weight of their complicated histories, they might have discovered authentic feelings for each other. Perhaps Esme, removed from the toxic influences and trauma that shaped her villainous behavior, became a different person. Perhaps Spencer, in turn, saw past her actions to the wounded, vulnerable person underneath. If they returned to Port Charles as a genuine couple, deeply in love and committed to building a life together, it would represent one of the most shocking twists in recent soap opera history. This scenario would create complications far beyond the romantic sphere. Esme's young son Ace remains in Port Charles, being raised with love and devotion by his grandmother, the formidable Laura Collins, former mayor and current pillar of the community. Laura stepped up to care for Ace after Esme's disappearance, providing the innocent child with stability, security, and the fierce protective love that defines the Spencer Casadini matriarch. She has bonded deeply with her great-grandson, and he knows her as his primary caregiver and mother figure. If Esme returns to Port Charles and demands custody of her biological son, a brutal legal battle would almost certainly ensue. Laura would not relinquish Ace without a fight, and she has both the resources and the determination to wage an extended custody war. The courtroom drama would force the entire Port Charles community to take sides, dredging up Esm's dark past and questioning whether she has truly changed enough to deserve a second chance at motherhood. Character witnesses would be called, psychological evaluations ordered, and Ace's best interests debated by expensive lawyers in emotionally charged proceedings that could last for months. The potential storylines branching from a Spencer and Esm return are virtually endless, offering the General Hospital writing team rich material for compelling drama that could sustain multiple interweaving plots for an extended period. Whether they return separately or together, as enemies or lovers, seeking revenge or redemption, their reappearance would send ripples through every corner of Port Charles, affecting not just the younger generation, but also the legacy characters who have invested so much in their stories.